You're probably thinking, what? This is crazy.
Yeah, we're finally getting some answers, and more importantly, recognition for boxed macaroni and cheese.
It's really tasty. Really tasty.
Yeah, I know what boxed mac and cheese tastes like. Okay, I know it's delicious.
What is going on, everyone? It's Sean O'Connell, the managing editor at CinemaBlend and your resident Hawkeye analysis video maker. We are into episode number 5, simply titled Ronin, and this is the last episode before the finale, so we expect a number of big things to drop, and sure enough they did. That means there's going to be spoilers. If you haven't seen Ronin yet, make sure you back out, go watch it, and then come back and join us. Here on our YouTube page, you're going to want to hit subscribe and turn on your notifications, because every time a new video drops, we want you to be the first ones to watch it.
Oh, right, okay, we get it. Thank you.
But we have to talk about this episode's 4 major points, starting with the big reveal.
Who's that with my mom?
Well, that's the guy I've been worried about this whole time.
All right, so the man of the hour finally showed up in the very last shot of the episode, Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin of Crime. We've been predicting his appearance here in Hawkeye for a little while. It was a rumor that people had been talking about. So, Wilson Fisk is the boss that everybody is referring to. It is confirmed that Kate Bishop's mother, Eleanor, is working for him. I believe that she's the one who framed Jack Duquesne then, at that point. Probably set him up as the bogus CEO of that Sloan Corporation.
I'm telling you, the only Sloan I've ever known was this woman I dated in Palm Beach, and she was an absolute nightmare.
And the reason why it's important that Eleanor is the one who's working for Kingpin is because that's great motivation for Kate. Like, Kate needs a bit of dramatic hero motivation to keep going in this game. Hawkeye, as we've seen through the course of this, has so much of it tied to his family, things that he's going to great lengths to protect. It would make sense that it would be a family member for Kate Bishop as well, too, to keep her involved in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in the hero game. Betrayal by her mother is significant because she feels she's been doing a lot of this stuff to protect her mother. And I don't doubt that Jack's a bad guy. I do think that there are some shady things that he's been part of. He was a member of that secret auction when they were the higher-ups were bidding on all those different things. But it's revealed that Eleanor is the one that's really been pulling the strings behind the scenes. And
I've never worked a day in my life.
Kingpin is such an important character in this corner of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's great that they are introducing him now because it opens up an entire world of stories that they can tell centered around Manhattan and criminal organizations, not just the Kingpin owns, but then he has multiple rivals that control other gangs that could be explored. And a lot of the heroes that try to take Kingpin down are almost street level guys like Daredevil, Elektra. You have villains like Bullseye. The Punisher could be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, this is just scraping away at the surface of where the introduction of Kingpin can take the MCU. Now, do I wish that we got to see him in person? Yes, I do. Absolutely. And I'm guessing we're gonna get it in the finale, but we finally get confirmation then that the big boss that everyone has been referring to over the course of the entire season has been Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin of Crime.
Trust me, I know.
That brings us to the other big mystery of this series so far, which has been the Rolex and the importance of the Rolex. And it kind of took a back seat in this episode. There wasn't a lot of emphasis on it. We didn't get a lot of details, except a few little hints when Clint called back home to talk to his wife. There is definitely something else going on with her. Her history is deeper and probably darker than we were ever led to believe. And I find that to be pretty fascinating because it makes me wonder how much Kevin Feige knew when he introduced her and Clint's entire family back in Avengers Age of Ultron. Sometimes Marvel lands into some things through happy accidents. And I think when the Barton family was introduced in Avengers Age of Ultron, they were there to sort of ground Hawkeye and make him seem more human and to give him a reason for going into the hero game, even though he doesn't necessarily have superpowers the way that other people do. He has a skill set, that's for sure. But as we start to chip away and figure out why he's going to such great lengths to protect his family, the Rolex, I think, is going to hint to the fact that she's been in hiding for various other reasons, and I think they're tied to the Kingpin, because when Hawkeye mentions that
It's just a matter of time before the big guy gets involved.
he's relaying to her that Kingpin is getting close to sniffing out what's going on here, and that, he's got to stay and complete this mission before it blows up in everybody's face.
Jesus. Are you sure?
So no real specific details about the Rolex. It's still something I'm looking at the finale to reveal to us, but a small hint that put me in the direction that leads me to believe that the Rolex is going to reveal that it's Hawkeye's wife, who he's ultimately protecting by finding it, and she's going to be related to or tied to the Kingpin's criminal organization somehow.
Do what you have to do.
Now we have to discuss what has instantly become my favorite addition to the Hawkeye series, and this is Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova. I loved her in Black Widow. I thought she was terrific, opposite Scarlett Johansson. But she just comes into this episode and steals the entire series away from everybody who's been great up to this point.
I'm sorry, what?
Like, it's cool that it's a Hawkeye series and, you know, somewhat belongs to Jeremy Renner. Hailee Steinfeld has been everything that we could have asked for an addition as Kate Bishop. But Yelena arrives with this fantastic kitchen scene between her and Kate Bishop. And they have this great little Quentin Tarantino-esque dialogue between the two of them about, you know, hey, look, if I was going to kill you, I would have killed you before. I don't have any weapons on me.
That's a lie also.
It establishes who they are. And part of the reason why I find that to be really exciting is because these two, in the comic books, these characters are founding members or important members of a team called the Young Avengers. I'm going to talk about them in a bit. And so I got excited by the chemistry between the actresses of Florence Pugh and Hailee Steinfeld, because if they are one of the cornerstones of the MCU moving forward, I think it's in extremely good hands. And I also do love that at the very end, she's the one who texts Kate Bishop and says, hey, I figured out who your mom is working for, and I think that you should know this. It goes to show that Yelena has, you know, a kind heart and targets Clint Barton, but doesn't want Kate Bishop to get sort of wrapped up in this. And I thought Florence's performance all the way through it was outstanding, because the Black Widows can come across in the wrong hands as just like that blunt instrument, sharpened tool.
Excuse me?
And you saw a little bit of that when they tried to use the antidote on that earlier widow, who just really seemed to be content to be an assassin for hire. She didn't really have a lot of spark or personality to her. But in the hands of an actress like Florence Pugh, they bring a lot more layers to the character. They bring a lot more complications to what it means to be in the Widow program. And then you factor in the additional information that we picked up about the fact that Yelena has been dusted. She was one of the ones that was gone for 5 years. That's a whole gap of time of things that she's missing from the Marvel Cinematic Universe that can be really exciting to explore from a traumatic point of view. Right now, it's been a lot of PTSD of her trying to get over the fact that her sister is gone, and in a vengeance sort of mission going after the person who she deems responsible for it. But once we get past that element, there's going to be a lot more to Yelena's backstory and that 5-year gap that needs to be explored that I think Marvel can tap into for years to come.
Like it or not, there is no escaping this.
Okay, for my final point, I want to get into a bigger picture discussion for a theme that was brought up in this episode, which is, what does the word Avenger actually mean? Kate Bishop puts a lot of trust and faith in Clint Barton because he is, quote unquote, an Avenger. And yes, he is definitely a member of the founding team. But as Yelena kind of points out,
What does that word even mean, huh? That it holds so much power.
Clint gets a lot of passes because he saved the world. We've seen that over the course of this season. He gets free dinner. People want to do things constantly for him because he, quote-unquote, saved the world. And that's true. But just because you were part of a particular battle, does that mean that your reputation and all the things that you've done is completely gone? And with a character like Clint Barton, I find that to be really fascinating because he's never really hid from the fact that he has done some incredibly bad things. He's talked about that with Natasha often through the course of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He continues to hammer that point home when he talks about the stuff that he did as Ronin. And what is it, just because he's an Avenger, does he get away with that stuff? I think the idea of what does it mean to be an Avenger is going to be really important as we continue to move forward in the Marvel Cinematic Universe too, because the team, the concept of that team doesn't exist right now. We have a lot of scattered heroes throughout the MCU who are not bounded together or bonded together in a team format, and there's no real leader to step up and pull them together the way that maybe Iron Man did or Captain America did in the previous films. There's no link that brings Shang-Chi or the Eternals or Spider-Man or Thor or any of these existing heroes together, but there could be a thread that pulls together, like I said, maybe a Young Avengers team, which would include characters like Kate Bishop and Yelena Belova.
Okay. Yeah.
Or there could be a planet-threatening challenge that would require an Avengers team. But right now, we're stuck in a gray area period of the MCU where we don't really know who is an Avenger and who isn't, what it means to be an Avenger, and what it will mean going forward. So whenever an MCU project brings up that concept, I always sort of gravitate towards it because I'm really curious to see how Kevin Feige wants to define what an Avenger means in this world right now, post Avengers Endgame. And Clint is one of those people who has to sort of help them figure it out, because as an existing member, as someone who's still sort of grappling with this label, it's important.
You made it look so easy and cool.
Well, we have one episode left of Hawkeye and a lot of dangling plot threads. Hawkeye's got to clear his name and make sure that his family is safe. Kate's now going to have to wrestle with the fact that Eleanor is working for the Kingpin of Crime. Echo is moving her vengeance mission away from the Ronin. Clint Barton almost put her back on the trail of her boss, which I believe was going to put Echo in the path of Kingpin. Yelena's got a vengeance mission going against Clint. There's a lot going on. So there's plenty of stuff that they can address in the season finale. And I kind of wonder, too, if Hawkeye is one of those series that's going to be like Loki, where when it finishes, we realize, oh, this wasn't really closure. And then they tell us that Hawkeye's going to get season 2. I would not be surprised at all if Hawkeye continued as a second season. That hasn't been announced yet. And so I'm on record right now saying that I think Hawkeye's going to get a season 2, because this feels like the kind of story that can keep developing in this corner of the universe. So, needless to say, I'll be back here next week for a breakdown of the finale of the first season of Hawkeye. As I said, I'm going to say first season because I think a second season is coming. To make sure that you do not miss the video as soon as it drops, hit subscribe and turn on your notifications. And of course, keep it right here on CinemaBlend for all of your Marvel Cinematic and superhero universe needs.